Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so proud to be presenting at Frontiers. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sean Heron, and I'm the Director of Engineering for Business Technology at Slack. My pronouns are he and him. Today's session is really about how you can create exceptional technology experiences with Slack at the core. Our team's mission is exactly that. We work to bring technology to Slack employees through our own platform. And we're going to be sharing some tangible examples of tooling and processes you can use in your own organization. Our customers often ask us what our own approach is to IT at Slack. We have 4 key focus areas. These probably mirror your own organization's priorities. First, our employee services. Ensuring our employees have the productivity essentials they need to do their jobs, such as computers, video conferencing, and support. Next, our enterprise architecture, planning our tools and systems to be scalable and interoperable. Our business systems, the services that keep the company running, such as our HR platform, our financial management software, and our sales enablement suite. Finally, data and analytics, ensuring Slack employees have high quality and accessible data to inform decisions and drive priorities. What's perhaps different is that what you see dead center at the middle here is Slack. And for us, these areas wouldn't even exist without Slack at the core. You may be using Slack in one area. We're using it from top to bottom. Slack is the only application every single one of our employees uses on a daily basis. It's the first thing we open in the morning and the last thing we look at before signing off. You may be using Slack to communicate with one another, and that's great. We find that even more potential is unlocked when you work to deeply integrate your business process and workflows. Now, you may think that we say that just because we're Slack, but we really have found a material advantage in operating our business this way. We want to help you reap some of the same benefits we've discovered. For us, we call this approach Slack on Slack. We've developed the Slack on Slack program with the goal of bringing the processes and workflows employees need from across the company into Slack itself. Today, our team is going to share 3 key components of how we make Slack on Slack successful. First, we'll discuss how we discover business processes in our organization that are great candidates for inclusion in our Slack on Slack program, and how we work with stakeholders to get buy-in. Next, we'll talk about how we actually go about building that process into Slack. And finally, how we drive and measure adoption. These 3 components are critical for any developer looking to build a tool. Without a clear business need and a campaign to drive adoption, even the most elegant app in the world may go unused. So let's talk about recognizing your business need. It's probably not going to be a big surprise, but many, if not all of us, have probably faced almost identical challenges this year. In March, almost all of us began working from home. Your entire team probably, our entire team, we all went remote. And that created a lot of new challenges that we haven't faced before. How do we help employees do their jobs successfully? Our team objectives changed overnight, and our most important element became how we supported Slack in this transition, and how to best help our team support customers like you who were going through the same thing. We started focusing on mapping out all of the various employee life cycles that we had within the company. What were the processes, workflows, and patterns seen in various roles? And how did they start to shift in a remote-only world? How could Slack best help them be successful? Now, this is meant to be a bit overwhelming. It's how we felt when we looked at everything. This is just a small sliver of some of the life cycles that we identified at Slack, and they probably line up to some elements from your own organization as well. Our very first tip is to don't look at everything. Don't take it all in. Figure out what the biggest priority is for you. For us, it was sales and customer success. So we're going to focus in on that. You may choose something else, but for the sake of our imagination, let's pretend that you chose the same thing. What can we do to improve their experience? We dove deep into this life cycle, working to understand in partnership with those teams exactly the challenges they were facing as they helped our customers be successful in this new world. This spanned everything from how they communicated to each other, assisted customers facing unique challenges never before seen, and onboarded thousands of people to a new way of working overnight. We developed a framework when working to identify where we could have the most impact, combining a blend of direct work with business partners, employee ideation, and some of our own concepts to create a package of proposals that we could take and prioritize off of. What we aim to do is to create a library of ideas, something organized by function, with common workflows or practices highlighted. To some extent, we had too much feedback. We needed to focus. So, again, we prioritized. For us, we looked through ideas and analyzed them against 3 key criteria. First, the business impact. What was the intended audience, and what is the expected impact to the business? Is this something that will help a large group of people only occasionally? Or will a few key people use this tool every single day? The answer for most things is probably somewhere in between. The key is to really understand who your audience is and what problem you are solving for them. We focused on automating processes that affected a wide population of our employees. Next, we look at if Slack is an amplifier. We don't want to build on Slack just for the sake of building on Slack. How does Slack help this process become more useful? Maybe it broadens your tool's adoption, since you'll be able to reach more users in a place that they already are, versus bringing them to yet another external tool. Or maybe it offers more context during ongoing conversations, such as bringing in relevant metrics when discussing a problem that you're trying to solve for a customer. Or perhaps there is a specific business metric, such as time to resolution or completion of an action, that you think you can improve by bringing that process into Slack. Finally, does this help improve the Slack ecosystem? By this, I mean, are you focused on building an interconnected experience that leverages Slack? Ideally, you're reducing the noise, the number of places, and the things that people need to do to get work done. How does your solution fit into that larger picture? For our sales example, we identified 4 key areas that had both a high level of impact and a high level of friction. For each of these areas, we compared our proposed solutions against what existed in the Slack app directory, what we could build with built-in Slack functionality such as Workflow Builder, and finally, some concepts for more extensive custom applications that our team would develop. To dive deeper into some examples of how we've addressed these challenges, I'd like to introduce Monica Wilkinson, the lead architect for Slack on Slack.
Thanks, Sean. So as you can imagine, Slack uses off-the-shelf and custom-built apps, which really help us drive a lot of value for our company, targeting specific business use cases and goals. So let's take a look. Our Salesforce Slack app provides rich previews of Salesforce objects like opportunities and leads in Slack, and the ability to subscribe to notifications in a matter of seconds. Troops also works great with Slack. Troops is one of those apps which allows you to get Slack notifications for any kind of change to Salesforce data. Any account executive can configure notifications and act right from Slack, which is very valuable. But we also have a heavy investment in custom-built apps. Before we dive into some examples of these apps, I wanted to go over the underlying infrastructure which allows us to build great apps. First, we have invested in Workato as our integration platform to help us orchestrate workflows across apps like Salesforce and Workday, for example. We also have Heroku Enterprise as our platform as a service, which helps us quickly build apps and bots with more state. In addition, many of our apps bring insight to users powered by our Snowflake data warehouse and our BI tool, Looker. Finally, at the center of all of our integrations is Slack, the place where work happens. So back to our deep dive in custom apps. In the past 3 years, our team has built an extensive portfolio of solutions for sales. To start, we have Midas Signals, which helps sales reps prospect and nurture leads. Midas Slides helps sales reps quickly create personalized customer-facing pre-sales decks. We also have Approval Spots, which helps the sales team iterate on deal structures. Next, Financial Spot helps the revenue team ensure that contracts are processed in a timely fashion and customers are provisioned quickly. In addition, Metrics Bot provides monthly digests to the customer success organization about progress on their goals. And finally, Announce Bot helps us share news with customers and partners across multiple shared channels. Let's take a deeper look at two of our bots, Midas and Approval Spot. We first launched Midas Slides in October 2019. It is a custom application which uses our data warehouse to generate polished, customer-facing sales decks, leveraging our BI platform Looker. This all used to be done manually by reps and take hours to complete. Since launch, Midas Slides has saved the sales and success org more than 34,000 hours of manual work. To say that another way, if Midas was a team of 10 people, they could have worked for an entire year and still only have contributed 50% of that. So let's take a look at how Midas Slides works. First, an account executive will do a /command /Midas to get started, which will load the bot. They can then search for the account they are working with right from Slack, and this will query Salesforce. Finally, the request will be sent to our backend, the data for that account will be fetched, and the slide deck will be built with that data using Looker. So let's take a look here, what it looks like. And that's the slide deck. It's really comprehensive. Okay. As we developed Midas Slide, we also started working on Approval Spot for deals. The problem we had at Slack was that iterating on deal structures and getting approvals took a lot of time and was inaccurate because it was all manually done by sales reps. Our solution was to standardize and automate the full cycle of deal approvals using Steelbrick CPQ and Approval Spot to replicate the process in Slack. This brought consistency, efficiency, and transparency. So let's take a look at this one. When a rep submits a quote from Salesforce, this will automatically flow into the appropriate Slack channel, highlighting the key details. In particular, what is most powerful is the ability to have all the deal approvers submit their approval or rejection right from Slack after getting a notification. All of this was done leveraging Slack's open APIs and BlockKit. And as you can see, we're not only posting messages, but we're also making them interactive with modals, which surface additional details. However, our team didn't stop there. We continued, focused on solving the key problems. So the next app we tackled was around increasing our pipeline by providing key signals with actionable insights. We named it Midas Signals. So what do we mean by signals? These are real-time activity notifications that empower sales reps to take quick actions in Slack to drive pipeline and business growth. So let's take a look at this one. Signals is comprised of 3 core components. The first is customer activity subscriptions, which are available at the individual account level, as well as for the entire book of business. As seen, relevant activities are sent with buttons to take quick action. The quick actions include view in LinkedIn, view or add to Salesforce, and add to Sales Loft, which will map to the recommended cadence based on the details of that signal. We also provided a weekly digest and are tracking all of the interactions users are taking with the product, such that in a later phase, we can refine the recommendations. This product syndicates the key events from our product data warehouse and marketing systems to deliver what our rep needs to see with clear recommended actions. Let's take a look. Great. So Midas Signals just launched September 14th this year, and it was done after several months of partnership across operations, analytics, and engineering. And in the short time it has been running, we have already seen really great adoption, requests for additional signals, and results creating meaningful new opportunities. We realize that not all companies can develop this amount of energy to internal applications, but it really makes a big difference to focus on impact and build or buy the appropriate apps. So in conclusion, remember to maximize your Slack investment with a mix of off-the-shelf and custom apps. And with that, I will hand it off to Nicole, who's the head of change management in BizTech, to highlight how we drive adoption.
Thanks, Monica. It's such an exciting topic, building apps. Now, this next section is here to remind you that just like people need apps, apps need people. So some of you may remember that popular philosophical thought experiment. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? So the question is, what is an app if no one actually uses it? And that's why, as Sean mentioned, our Slack on Slack program centers around people right from the beginning. Beyond our traditional business partners, we found that many of the most innovative and creative ideas come from our broader employee base. And that's why we run an extensive crowdsourced ideation program, inviting people all over the company to contribute ideas in our Slack channel around processes that they think are ideal candidates for a Slack app. So let's say you are an idea submitter. The minute you click in to submit your idea in our channel, right from the get-go, we encourage you to think about people. Who's going to use this app? And most importantly, how can they impact our business by doing so? In fact, when you submit a Slack on Slack idea, as you can see here on our Slack on Slack intake form, we ask you to state the problem and pain, of course, but right up front, we ask you to articulate who the audience is and how would we be measuring value if we built this. So in this way, we're encouraging you to think about the business value you'll be creating by thinking about the people who will be using the technology and what they will do with it in their daily work. Now, as you heard Sean talk about, our Slack on Slack team then reviews the submission based on defined criteria and prioritizes all of these great ideas, always with a laser-focused eye on the business impact that people can make with their apps. And once that is done, two things can happen. First, our BizTech team could build the app and the idea enters a build phase. But some ideas do not meet our criteria and they're not taken on by our engineers to build. Now, because we want employees to have a good experience with our program and we don't want to dampen any innovative spirits, and of course, make sure no good ideas are ever wasted, we've also built a self-serve track for ideas that our team are not going to build, but that would still be impactful. And this DIY track offers a host of knowledge materials about our app guidelines, using Workflow Builder, and even Workato training modules as part of an Apps at Slack development course. And it's loaded onto our internal LMS, and anyone at Slack who wants to learn how to build on Slack can do this easily. But let's say we get good news. Monica and Sean's team takes on the app development work. Great. We're still always thinking about our users. We use a simple 4-step change enablement framework that guides our idea submitters on basic preparation for deployment. It encourages them to think about priming the audience, mobilizing them and getting visual or communication assets ready, enabling and reinforcing any change that is represented by their app, and then, of course, iterating and continuously measuring for feedback. So the first step is essentially an early readiness check. It asks, is your target audience, which we asked you to think about right up front, going to be prepared for this? And if not, how do we get them ready? So at this stage, you'll need answers to questions like, who are your key internal stakeholder groups? Are there external parties who may be impacted? Can you think of any cross-functional, competing, or conflicting projects that would need alignment? And really, what would the day-to-day impact of this app be? Also important to think about in this next phase of mobilization and design, what is the best way to get real-life user feedback on what you're building? And what is the plan of action to get this message out to people? And once you've done that, what will people connect this to? How do you want this app to be perceived in the organization? And how will you make this memorable so people remember to use it? At this stage, we often create a small group of early adopters or evangelists who we can partner with whilst we design. And this is a really invaluable group to get feedback from about features or flows that could be enhanced for launch. So as you can see, we get them up and away from their desks and thinking and iterating on the wildest possibilities so that we can co-create the best outputs together. These groups bring such valuable grassroots perspectives, and they also act as great partners to get the word out about our apps once we launch in their teams and throughout their departments. And then we can't forget about training and performance support. What happens after you deploy? Where do your users go with problems or for help? Sometimes we're so focused on launching our app, we forget about what happens next, which is just as important. So to do this, not only do we place posts in Slack channels, announcement channels, local team channels about the apps that we build, but we also look for opportunities to demo the app, to take the app to all hands meetings or team meetings, to get our organizational leaders to showcase how they're using the app perhaps, or even to get some of our early adopters like Kim, Helen, Victor here to demonstrate how they're using the app. And we turn those into performance support materials or triggers for the behaviors that we're encouraging with our app. And beyond that, we run traditional training sessions. We make sure to add relevant content to onboarding materials for new joiners. We add relevant content to our knowledge base so the app comes up in searches, or so that our AI bot can serve it up as an option for use. Really, the most important thing to do to bring your app to life is to tell meaningful stories about how this app can be used. People may not connect to your app yet, but people connect to stories. Once our app is live and in the wild, we encourage building in metric checkpoints so we can track the performance of the app and, of course, the impact that it's making. Continuous improvement is really important to us. We like to hold regular check-ins with our business partners to get feedback over time so we can continuously improve and iterate. So as an example, once Monica and Sean's team had built Approvals Bot for PTO, which helps managers approve vacation time right from Slack, the team generalized the bot into an approvals framework, which allowed them and other teams to easily support new approval use cases. And so enter new additions to our bot family like Approvals Bot for expenses and Approvals Bot for deals. We're always building cool new things. So to learn more about the bots that our engineering team has built to deliver impact to our business, we encourage you to check out our blogs on slack.com and Medium. And thank you for listening. And we hope that you enjoy the rest of Frontiers this year.